Somebody asked you what you wanted for your birthday recently. And without pausing, without thinking, you said nothing. Not as a hint, not to seem easygoing. You meant it. That word came out faster than a reflex, like someone had asked if you wanted more of something you'd already decided you didn't need. And then you moved on. And honestly, you haven't thought about it since. I'm Mike. I watch patterns and figure out the psychology behind them. And the pattern around Gen X and birthdays is so consistent, it's almost unsettling. You plan parties for your kids. You remember your college roommate's birthday, even though you haven't spoken in 4 years. You'll have a gift wrapped and ready 2 weeks early for someone you care about. But when your own birthday arrives, dinner's fine. Don't make a fuss. I don't need anything. And the strange part is, you genuinely believe it. The question worth asking is, where did that come from? Because nobody is born that way. Picture this. It's 1982. You're turning 10. Your mom grabbed a Betty Crocker cake mix from the grocery store, yellow cake, chocolate frosting from a can. 5 kids from the neighborhood sitting around your kitchen table. Decorations? Some crepe paper from the drugstore. A few balloons tied to the back of a chair with string. Snacks? A bowl of Doritos, Kool-Aid in a plastic pitcher. Entertainment? Pin the tail on the donkey. Musical chairs using a radio somebody kept bumping. And then everyone ran outside until a mom yelled from across the street that it was time to come home. That was a good birthday. That was your parents putting in real effort. Nobody looked at it and thought something was missing, because every kid on the block had the same party. Same cake, same Kool-Aid, same streamers. The standard was the standard, and it was enough. But the party was only half of it. The other half was the gifts. And that's where something started to quietly shift inside you. Every generation has the toy every kid loses their mind over. For your generation, it depended on the year. Star Wars figures, the Walkman, Cabbage Patch Kids, Transformers, the Nintendo. There was always something you'd circled in the Sears catalog with a pen until the ink almost went through the page. You dropped hints. You waited. And sometimes you got it, and that was real, tearing the paper off something you'd been thinking about for 3 months. But a lot of the time, you got something close, something practical. Or you heard the sentence every Gen X kid could recite from memory. Maybe for Christmas. And every kid understood that maybe for Christmas was a gentle no dressed up in 4 words. So what did you do? You adjusted. You said, okay. And by the next morning, you weren't thinking about it anymore. You moved on almost suspiciously fast. And that speed wasn't random. The world around you was training you to do exactly that. Between 1970 and the mid-1980s, the number of families where both parents worked jumped from roughly 40% to over 60%. Bureau of Labor Statistics data, not a guess. In 15 years, millions of homes went from having one parent around most of the time to having neither parent around most of the time. And layered on top of that, the U.S. divorce rate doubled between 1960 and 1980, peaking right around 1979 to 1981, exactly when the largest part of your generation was in the middle of childhood. So what does any of this have to do with your birthday? Everything. In a house where both parents are working full-time, or where your parents just split and you're going back and forth between 2 addresses, birthday planning slides down the priority list. Not because they didn't love you, because they were barely keeping their heads above water. Some of you had a birthday where things just fell through the cracks. Not every year, but enough. Some of you had the split household birthday. A half celebration at mom's on Saturday, your dad taking you to Pizza Hut on Wednesday and calling it done. And what happened next is where the psychology gets interesting, because you didn't process any of this. You didn't sit with it. You were 8. Your brain just quietly filed it away, and the note it filed said, birthdays? Not a big deal. Lower the expectations, keep moving. There's a term for this in psychology, Disappointment inoculation. It works like a flu shot for your feelings. When you get small, repeated letdowns about the same thing, not dramatic ones, just a consistent pattern of small ones, your brain stops getting excited about that thing. It's not sadness, it's efficiency. Your brain reached over and turned down the volume on birthday anticipation, and it never turned it back up. But the low-key birthday wasn't doing this alone. The entire culture around you was teaching the same lesson from every angle. The message of the 1970s and 80s, and if you grew up in it, you know exactly what I mean, was don't be full of yourself. Don't ask for too much. Be tough. Handle it. Figure it out. Your parents didn't sit you down and say never celebrate yourself. They didn't have to. The way everything worked around you said it for them. You fell off your bike? Walk it off. You were upset? Toughen up. Not every parent, not every time, but the pattern was consistent enough that it soaked in. A psychologist published research through Harvard in 1991 about something called self-silencing. The idea that when the people around you consistently don't respond to your needs, your brain learns to stop putting those needs forward. Not out of anger, not out of giving up, because your brain decided it was faster and easier to just stop wanting. And your birthday is the ultimate test of that pattern, because a birthday is the one day of the year that's supposed to be completely about you. If you've spent your entire childhood being trained by experience and repetition to not make things about you, that day stops being a celebration. It becomes the most uncomfortable day on the calendar. You don't skip your birthday because you hate it. You skip it because being the center of attention for a whole day feels like putting on a coat that doesn't fit. Not painful, just wrong. And that makes complete sense. Being comfortable with attention is a skill, something you build through practice, through people watching you, acknowledging you, focusing on you, over and over again. Your generation got very little of that practice. The muscle never developed. Which is why you can throw your kid a birthday with 25 guests and a bouncy castle and a playlist you spent 3 hours making and genuinely enjoy every second of it, because the spotlight is on them. But if someone aimed that same energy at you, your whole body tenses up. In your 20s, a birthday was just a reason to go out. In your 30s, a dinner and some cake, fine. But somewhere in your 40s, birthdays started to feel different. Not because of the number, but because of what that number represents. A recent survey found that 36% of American adults say they don't enjoy celebrating their birthday, and that number rises with age. For Gen X, currently sitting between the mid-40s and late 50s, there's a weight that comes with the candles now. Your parents are aging, your body sends you small reminders every morning that it isn't 25, friends start getting health scares. Every birthday becomes a quiet mile marker. Not how old am I, but how much road is left. And if you already had a reason to wave off your birthday from childhood, this gives you a second, more convenient reason. Now it's not just that you don't care, it's that caring means counting. And counting means looking at a clock you'd rather not think about. Here's the part that's a little sneaky. What you say about your birthday and what's actually happening underneath might not be the same thing. When you tell people you don't want anything, you believe it completely. It's not a lie, but it might be something more interesting than the truth. It might be a line you've been rehearsing for 40 years. Think about how many times you've said some version of, I don't need anything. At birthdays, at holidays, in every conversation where someone asked what you wanted. You've said it so many times it stopped being a choice. It became a script. And once a script is memorized, you stop checking whether it's still accurate. There's a difference between not wanting something and not remembering how to want it. And that gap is so thin you can't see it from the inside. Because from the inside, it just feels like the truth. From the outside, though, I can see that 10-year-old at the kitchen table. Betty Crocker cake, Dixie cup ice cream, crepe paper on the wall. That kid did want things. That kid circled items in the Sears catalog until the ink almost went through the page. That kid had a list. That kid cared. They just got taught, slowly and without anyone meaning to be cruel, that wanting things usually leads to the same place. Maybe later. Maybe for Christmas. We'll see. And "we'll see" was the gentlest no in the English language. So the wanting muscle got weaker, not because anything was wrong with it, but because you stopped using it. On yourself, specifically. That reflex, the "I don't want anything" reflex, was a genuinely smart move when you were 8. In a house where things were unpredictable and adults were stretched thin, lowering your expectations was the right call.
It kept you from getting knocked down every few months. Your brain did exactly what it was supposed to do. The problem is, your brain never got the update. You're not 8 anymore. You're not waiting for someone else to remember. You have your own life, your own people, your own ability to decide. The situation that created the reflex ended a long time ago, but the reflex is still running, like a program nobody ever closed, sitting in the background, taking up space.
Next time someone asks what you want for your birthday and that word starts forming, nothing, just catch it. For 1 second, check if there's something underneath it. Something that's been sitting there a long time, covered in dust, right next to a Dixie cup and a flat wooden spoon. Drop a comment below. What was your birthday like growing up? I genuinely like to know. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.